I'm still recovering from mea culpa. He has managed to make billions of dollars. Looking at you too, Issa Rae. One of them days, really? Where's Lily Blonde? Where's our pretty woman?
Taraji P. Henson recently revealed some hard-hitting truths about her longtime collaborator Tyler Perry, and the conversation that followed has reignited years of criticism about his portrayal of black women. Tyler Perry, known for his signature Medea movies and emotional melodramas, has built an empire off of stories that center black pain, particularly the pain of black women. And while Perry says he's honoring the women in his life, his mother, his aunts, his cousins, many are saying it feels less like tribute and more like trauma porn. What's made this all even more complicated is Taraji's continued loyalty in defense of Perry's work, despite admitting that these roles leave her drained, emotionally bruised, and carrying the weight of those characters' pain long after the cameras stop rolling. In Tyler Perry's new film Straw, Taraji plays yet another struggling single black mother whose life quickly descends into chaos, eviction, losing her job, getting her child taken away by CPS, and even committing crimes to survive. For many black women, this was a final straw, no pun intended. They are fed up with seeing themselves only reflected on screen when they're suffering. This kind of storytelling has become Perry's signature, and while it's made him a billionaire, it's also earned him harsh criticism from critics and audiences alike. People are asking, why is every black woman in his stories either raped, cheated on, humiliated, or rescued by a man who barely has enough money to buy dinner? And why is that supposed to be empowering? Taraji defends this work by saying these women exist and deserve to be seen. She's said it multiple times, that these roles represent real people who are often ignored by society. But critics argue that while those women do exist, they're not the only black women out here. There are joyful, successful, loved, and thriving black women, too, and yet those stories rarely make it into Perry's scripts. Instead, we get a rotation of battered, abandoned, and desperate women, often shamed and only rewarded with redemption. If a blue-collar man shows up to love them despite their baggage, that's not representation, that's conditioning. And this isn't a new criticism. From Diary of a Mad Black Woman to Temptation to Acrimony, the same themes keep popping up: black women punished for mistakes, betrayed by men, stripped of their dignity, and left to fight through their pain alone. In Temptation, a woman cheats once and ends up with HIV. In Acrimony, Taraji's character sacrifices her entire life for a man who leaves her the second he gets rich, only for her to die alone and humiliated. And Why Did I Get Married? The plus-size character Sheila gets cheated on and mocked for her weight, only to find love after she transforms herself physically. Meanwhile, the character Angela is portrayed as angry and emasculating. So even when a black woman gets a man in Perry's world, it only happens after she's endured trauma and reshaped herself to fit his idea of worthy. Taraji admitted that playing these roles takes a toll on her. On the fourth day of filming Straw, she confessed feeling broken. Bringing these characters to life means digging into her own wounds, reliving her own traumas, and bleeding emotionally for the camera. That's not just acting, that's sacrifice, and yet she still defends Perry and his work. She says it's about voicing the voiceless, showing real people, and offering visibility to stories that often go ignored. But critics argue that constantly showing suffering doesn't just reflect reality, it can reinforce it, especially when it becomes the only narrative being pushed. Some believe the reason Taraji stays loyal to Perry has less to do with vision and more to do with value. In a recent interview, she said that Tyler Perry is the only one in Hollywood who consistently pays her what she's worth. He doubled her salary for Straw. This is the same woman who went public not long ago about being tired of working so hard, being so good at what she does, and still being underpaid. She said it breaks her heart to hear her sisters in the industry say the same thing. So, it's not hard to see why she might stand beside Perry even when his work draws fire, because in a world that undervalues black actresses, he at least shows her financial respect. But what about emotional respect? If Perry truly loved black women like he claims, would he still be pushing stories that portray them as permanently broken? Where is the joy? Where is the ease? Where are the narratives that allow black women to simply exist without trauma? The argument isn't that these stories shouldn't exist. It's that they shouldn't be the only ones being told. And when Perry gets on platforms to defend his work, saying things like, black women are all things joy, pain, struggle, and love, it rings hollow to many because his films rarely show the first two. The joy and the love seem to always come with conditions and only after immense suffering. The criticism goes beyond his film plots, too. Actor Derek Dixon recently filed a lawsuit against Tyler Perry alleging saw on the set of The Oval. Dixon claims Perry pinned him against a trailer wall, touched him inappropriately, and interrogated him about his sexuality after rejecting Perry's alleged advances. His character was conveniently written off the show. Perry's lawyers have called the claims a scam and a shakedown attempt. But it's not the first time Perry has been accused of controlling and intimidating behavior. Multiple actors have spoken out about his tendency to rewrite entire scripts on the spot, demand immediate compliance, and punish those who don't follow his orders. Christian Keys, another actor who worked with Perry, openly said that Perry taught him how not to treat people when you're in a position of power. That's a serious statement. And even though Perry admitted in interviews that he's controlling, saying he often lets others try a scene their way but always uses his version in the final cut, it just reinforces the idea that there's no room for other voices, especially women's voices, in his creative process. Then there's Monique. Her feud with Tyler Perry stretches back over a decade. She claims he blackballed her after she refused to do unpaid international press for Precious, a film that brought Perry immense acclaim as a producer. She says he, along with Oprah and Lee Daniels, labeled her difficult, which cost her tens of millions in work years later. Only Lee Daniels apologized. Perry never did. And if you think Monique has let that go, think again. She's still calling him out publicly, asking him to appear on Club Shay Shay to discuss the damage he caused to her career, and whether he plans to make it right. It gets even messier when you consider that Monique was originally offered the role of Cookie in Empire, a role that eventually went to Taraji. Monique says Lee Daniels offered it to her, then took it back, claiming she was too difficult to work with. Rumors swirled that Perry was involved behind the scenes in that decision, too, so now, watching Taraji defend Perry while he faces SA lawsuits, and while Monique's career still hasn't fully recovered, many are seeing this as the ultimate betrayal, and Monique has not stayed quiet about it. She's thrown some serious shade online in the wake of the new allegations. She posted cryptic messages about being labeled difficult when refusing to tolerate manipulation, lies, and bullying. She also made it clear that this isn't just about her, it's about the larger pattern of powerful men using their influence to silence and punish women who speak up. And that's exactly what critics are accusing Perry of doing, not just to Monique, but to every woman whose story gets reduced to trauma in his movies. Let's not forget Perry's now infamous statement about how women should be grateful for a man who can at least pay the light bill. He said that as long as a man shows up emotionally and supports you in non-financial ways, women should consider that enough. That sparked a massive backlash, with women asking why they're expected to settle for crumbs while carrying the emotional, financial, and spiritual weight of an entire household. Perry framed it as love, but many saw it as yet another example of the low standards his story set for black women. So, when Tyler Perry says he's honoring black women, many aren't buying it anymore. They're asking, if you really respect us, why are we always suffering in your films? Why do we always have to be strong, broken, and on the brink? Why can't we just be happy, loved, cared for, and thriving? And more importantly, why do we always have to prove we're worthy of love by enduring pain first? Even Taraji seems to be wrestling with this contradiction. She's talked about needing peace, needing to protect her spirit, and walking away from anything that threatens that. She said if she has to question whether something will disturb her peace, she chooses herself. She also admitted that she had to take a solo trip to Bali just to find the version of herself she left behind in the chaos of Hollywood, so she's protecting her peace now. Why stay so loyal to a man whose work reopens her wounds over and over again? That's a central question fans are now asking. Is Tyler Perry truly a supporter of black women? Or is he just using their trauma to keep his billion-dollar machine running? And is Taraji supporting his vision because she believes in it, or because she knows he's one of the few people in Hollywood who won't lowball her? These aren't easy questions, but they are important ones because ultimately, if the only way black women get seen on screen is when they're being violated, punished, or saved by a man who brings nothing to the table but struggle, then we're not talking about representation anymore. We're talking about exploitation. The time has come for black women's stories to be centered in joy and success, in luxury, in rest and in peace. Not every story needs to start with pain and end with a light bill romance. And that's why this moment matters, because people are no longer just consuming Perry's work without question. They're dissecting it, challenging it, and demanding better. The streets are loud. Black women are speaking up. and they're asking for what they deserve not just on the screen, but behind it too, stories that reflect their whole selves, not just their suffering. And whether or not Tyler Perry is ready to evolve, the culture already has. The real shift we're seeing now is that black women are not just watching these stories anymore. They're rejecting them. They're tired of being told that pain is their only path to power, that survival is their greatest virtue, and that suffering is the only story worth telling. Social media is flooded with black women speaking out, demanding better roles, better images, better treatment, and most of all, better narratives. They're calling for joy, love, peace, softness, rest, and abundance, not just survival. And while Perry insists he's showing reality, the reality has changed. The average black woman is not living in trauma every day. She's getting therapy, she's traveling, she's building businesses, she's loving herself fully without waiting for a man to complete her. So, when Tyler Perry keeps pushing out stories of black women getting abused, cheated on, killed, or humiliated, it's not just offensive, it's outdated. And the irony is, Perry could be the one to change this. He has the money, the platform, and the influence to create powerful, joyful stories about black women. But instead of evolving with the culture, he's digging deeper into the same worn-out blueprint. And it's costing him. The backlash around Straw is just the latest example, but it's loud, sharp, and is hitting in ways his team can't ignore. The criticism isn't just from elite critics, it's from everyday black women, the very audience that built his empire. Even platforms like Twitter and Reddit have become places where people openly dissect the harm Perry's narratives cause. They talk about how his work reinforces harmful stereotypes globally, shaping the way black women are viewed not just in America, but across the world. Some say Perry's films are modern-day minstrel shows dressed up in gospel choirs and lace-front wigs. And the fact that these criticisms are now coming from within the community, not just outside of it, should be a wake-up call. Still, Taraji stands beside him. And maybe that's what hurts some people the most, because they see her as one of the few mainstream black actresses who consistently brings authenticity and depth to her roles. Her support gives Perry's work legitimacy, even when it's harmful. And while it's understandable that she's grateful for the opportunities he gives her, especially in an industry that still treats black women as disposable, it's also clear that she's wrestling with that choice, the emotional toll, the public backlash, and the complicated feelings about being fairly paid but emotionally taxed. It's all there in her interviews if you listen closely enough. Meanwhile, Monique's presence in this story adds a deeper layer of tension. Her public fallout with Perry, her accusations of blackballing, and now her subtle jabs in the middle of this new lawsuit, they all bring the old wounds back to the surface. Monique is a cautionary tale. She stood up, refused to bow down, and pay the price, and now watching Taraji support the same man who helped derail her career feels like a betrayal to many. It raises the question, what does loyalty cost when it's tied to someone accused of harming others? The problem isn't that Perry tells stories of struggle, it's that he refuses to tell anything else. And at this point, it feels deliberate. He's shown no signs of shifting the narrative. He continues to defend his work as homage, as truth, as a service to black women. But those same women are now telling him loud and clear, we don't need your version of truth anymore. We have our own. We have stories of joy and softness and abundance that are just as valid and worthy of screen time. And if he won't tell them, someone else will. Perry claims to love black women. But love means evolving. Love means listening. Love means showing them as whole, not just as broken. It means creating characters that don't need to be abused to be redeemed. It means giving your audience more than pain, and right now, Perry seems more interested in maintaining the narrative he created than growing with the community that made him rich. There's a quiet sadness in watching someone with so much power and so many resources refuse to grow. Because Tyler Perry could be a game changer. He could hire more women writers, bring in different voices, show different kinds of stories. But he won't. And the industry lets him get away with it because his films make money, pain sells. Trauma sells, and Perry knows that. But just because something sells doesn't mean it's right. And just because something's popular doesn't mean it's harmless. Even Taraji herself is beginning to show cracks in that support. She talks more often now about protecting her peace, walking away from toxicity, and putting herself first. So how long can she really keep standing beside Perry while his brand is built on everything she says she's walking away from? That's a question that only time can answer. But the tension is there, the contradiction is loud, and audiences are watching closely. This moment is bigger than Tyler Perry. It's about the broader conversation happening in Hollywood right now. Who gets to tell black stories? What kinds of black stories get funded? Who gets to define what's real, what's authentic, and what's valuable? And what responsibility do creators have when their work becomes harmful? These are not easy questions, but they're necessary because the stakes are high, representation matters, images matter. Stories shape the way people see themselves and how the world sees them. And in Tyler Perry's world, black women are always struggling.